Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you. I'm feeling very welcome here as always. As always,
you
welcome
are always
in your studio.
Always welcome. Always welcome. And previously we were talking about, well, we bumped into each other at Grasspop in Belgium, and
that was great. Thank you very much for sorting out the passes, by the way.
No worries at all. I just apologise. It took 2.5 hours for you to get in because of the
3 hours.
3 hours because of the. I think it's fair to say numpty.
I don't know. No. They were fine. They were all very good. It was just didn't work. That's all. But it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's like organisation. Because I look at organisations and I look at people like the airlines who send me off to Switzerland when I'm meant to be going to the Netherlands. But my luggage gets to the Netherlands, but I don't.
Any particular airline?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
it was particularly. And the funny thing is, I didn't realise it was a bad. I was very happy because I thought it was my fault. This is the thing. I always think it's my fault because I think.
It probably is.
It's probably my fault. Yeah, and then until I went through the security, and the security guard goes, "Oh, not again." And he's like, and I said, "What do you mean not again?" He said, yesterday we had a guy who wanted to go to Edinburgh and they sent him off to a Greek island.
That doesn't sound so bad.
No, I agree. But obviously they had something that wasn't quite working correctly. But I mean, I don't get on well with airlines. You know that very well. I mean, I do get on very well with airlines, and they have been amazing. I mean, but sometimes they can't get me out quick enough. I mean, in fact, that particular time, I was sent off with the representative of the airline and the representative of the airport. Both sent me off waving as I went down the gangplank towards the plane. Right. But it was the fact that they made sure that I left the airport. The funny thing is, I never made any claim against that. The fact that I got to my destination several days after I'd left home.
But this all falls into your same thing of the unexpected. You like that kind of...
I love it when things go wrong. Yeah. This is the thing.
99 out of 100 people that were in that situation will be having an absolute meltdown because they're in the wrong place. Not only they're in the wrong place, they've got to now wait and come back another day. For you, that's ideal. It's
adventure, and this is the whole thing. I think this is why I live my life the way I do, is because even when I was a little boy at school, I remember, if things went wrong, I am very, very comfortable. And where other people aren't, that's when I'm most comfortable. I don't. Now that makes me sound like some kind of murderer or something, making people feel
you're only a murderer if they catch you. But as children, one of the things, that's an interesting point. As I said, we spoke about this before, where we've both got children, and you can see a difference. If you've got a group of kids together, you can see the ones that take leadership better than others in different circumstances. For example, if, as you say, something changes, some young kids have a real panic about that. They don't like the routine changing. I mean, I'm kind of that kid, but forced into a position where I'm in a job like yourself, where things do change all the time. The one thing I really like to be the same is when I get home. I struggle if everything's changing constantly at home. It's like this is the one little bit of security. I think that's kind of, everything else can change while I'm working. I'm away. That's absolutely fine. Or if we're on holiday or something like that, that's totally fine. If I'm at home, I need to know that this is all kind of normal for a little bit. Does that make sense?
I think that is, because I kind of feel I relate to that too. It's just I don't have a home.
Well, this is your home, mate.
Thank you.
This.
Adam, I do appreciate that. That's decent of you, man. Honestly, I don't think I've had a home for. It's been.
I mean, not on paper.
Decades.
I'm not saying legally you've got any standing at all.
Could I use your address just for banking and credit cards?
No, you can't do that. Definitely not.
See, that would really be a home.
How's your brother? Is he cool? Well, you could use his address, couldn't you? Same surname, much easier.
I think I may have exhausted those channels.
Anyway, so back to Grasspop.
Things going wrong.
One of the things. Sorry, so one of the things I was.
Things going wrong at Grasspop.
Things going wrong at Grasspop. I've realised that there is a rather nasty sort of syndrome that affects people at festivals, which is called which is called Festival Neck Syndrome. And what that is
What's
where you're festival neck syndrome. And
festival neck syndrome.
So it's when you're in the kind of guest area or whatever at a festival, the person you're talking to and trying to communicate with, like yourself and me facing each other now, looking into each other's eyes and chatting, and now you're doing it. That's perfect. You're looking over my shoulder to see if there's somebody else more important to talk to. So that is festival neck syndrome. In which case, yes, she's definitely more important to talk to than your good self. But the festival neck syndrome, I think, was quite prevalent at Grasspop. And I noticed that a couple of people we were talking to were constantly looking over our shoulders to see if they could speak to Steve Harris or Rolf Harris or whoever else was there. I don't know.
Was that the case? I don't know, or are they just kind of? They're not necessarily looking for someone more important to talk to, which is what you're suggesting.
Yes, they are. But carry on.
No, so I mean, I don't know. It's a funny situation backstage. It's a funny situation because people. It's a funny environment for musicians because I always think that when musicians get together, I get very excited, and I want to throw my arms around everyone and greet them and be really happy to see them. And I find most of the time they don't want that.
Well, there is a funny thing about you're very comfortable being at anybody else's backstage because for that very reason you love seeing people, you love seeing other musicians. You don't enter into this kind of realm that some musicians fall into where it's very competitive, which I think I fall into the same category as you. I'm the most least competitive.
I am so do you know, I think you're probably right because I'm not competitive at all.
But I'm less competitive. I'm much less competitive.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah,
I've got 4 brothers, and some of them were very competitive, but I always knew that I was the best.
That is the key to being not competitive: is knowing that you're the best, and then you don't have to compete.
Exactly, there's no competition.
It is so easy when you put it like that. But what the backstage thing, where I mean, I don't really like it if I'm not playing because it frustrates me a little bit because I feel like the backstage environment is kind of it's just a place where you can hang out in a pub and talk to people, whereas backstage everybody's doing the looking over the shoulder, everyone's looking for somebody else, everyone's asking if you can get them further backstage to meet people, and that just annoys me. I'd rather just sit in a pub and chat to people. Doesn't
it just get to the point where is this? I mean, obviously you've got so many musicians. I mean, every festival you go to, for example, you might think, perhaps we'll meet, that great keyboard player that you might end up on tour with, that you haven't met, and perhaps have a 2-man show, just the 2 of you, And I've searched for years backstage, and it's useless.
Well, you never come across
Never find anyone. No, and that ideal.
That's such a shame because that would be a great. I mean, that would be great for you, especially to have somebody to work along, along with, to support you and maybe play where you don't have to play guitar or something like that. But you've struggled to find someone.
I've struggled, yeah. I mean, I've obviously accepted the nearest I can find, but it's not ideal.
It's not ideal, no.
And I think we all fall very short of our full potential, of course, And one day I look forward to being backstage and somebody appearing over the top of just over your shoulder,
over my left shoulder.
That's right, and I can say,
Elton, come here, Elton. I know you've just announced the 3-year tour. So there's a funny thing, right? Yeah. I can't now. I know. I understand marketing. I understand how these things kind of work with tours and everything else. But
you understand building as well.
I do understand.
You've got so many great careers ahead of you. Why don't you use it?
I'm really quite good at a lot of things, but I'm not very good at anything. I think that's the way. It's jack of all trades and all that. The Elton John thing, he was quite clear and said. He said that he wanted to spend more time with his family and then announced a 3-year tour. Now, I can't help thinking that if you want to spend more time with your family, you just do a week a month, wouldn't you?
I understand how this works, you see. What he means is he wants to spend more time with his family. Well, his family most of the time are working away from home anyway, and he doesn't see them. So if he goes on tour, I know, because my children are the same, then they will come to the shows. I mean, my children come to my shows, and there's good reason why my children come to my shows.
To steal your merch money.
What's mine is theirs. I tell you, anything I have is theirs. It's
You
fine.
you are the most generous person. If you've got money in your pocket, it's on the bar.
It's leaving.
Yeah,
It's leaving my pocket soon.
If you've got money in your pockets, you've got someone else's trousers on.
No, I think I think Ozzy's obviously set it up because his family. He knows he will see them when he's on
No,
tour.
I'm talking about Elton John. Not talking about Ozzy.
Oh,
I'm talking about Elton John's kind of
has
farewell.
Elton John got any? Oh, he has. Yes,
Yeah,
of
he's
course
got kids and stuff.
Sorry, God, do I not read the papers? You see, I don't read the papers. That's the trouble. I haven't got a TV. I haven't had TV for 20 years. Do you know it's a shocking thing to watch TV because there literally is nothing on it but adverts. It's like adverts all the time.
Oh, it depends what you're watching.
And I was interested in a show which was about boats, So it's about boats, history of boats.
God, this gets better.
Going back through centuries. It was a very interesting show. And it was just adverts. And it gets me angry. I get angry. The first advert comes on, you go, okay, fine, first advert. Second advert, it's like, okay, it's slightly irritating. This next, obviously they just have a minute break, 30-second adverts. My God, you can keep going you could go for 10 minutes of adverts.
I'm going to just going to tell you something now. Now, you can record all these programs on a Skybox or other boxes are available, and you can watch them back and then forward wind through the adverts. So you don't have to actually watch the adverts.
What about the good old days when they had BBC One and BBC Two? BBC One for the people who wanted to watch TV, BBC Two for the people who didn't want to watch BBC One.
Wasn't that how radio started? So Radio 2 and Radio 1. But now it's the other way around. So BBC Television, BBC One, BBC Two, Channel 4,
No,
ITV.
that wasn't around when I was a kid. Channel 4.
Well,
I
you're
remember
aging yourself now.
What? I'm not aging. You're not telling me that.
I remember when Channel 4
gonna...
came along. I remember when Channel 4 was like the big thing. It was like, this is incredible.
No, I remember when Channel 4 was the this is all going downhill. This is the end of TV. What are we going to do now? We've got 4 channels on TV. That's what I remember. I liked it when you watched snooker and you couldn't quite work out.
In black and white. You couldn't work out what colour the ball was.
Quite work out which ball you were on. Yeah.
Did you see that thing a little while ago? There was some, I don't know if it's the Masters or it was one of the British snooker championships where Ronnie O'Sullivan was playing, and this old woman just jumped over the barrier, which seems ironic that there's like a barrier at snooker, but the barrier was about 2.5 foot high, and this lady jumped over, and she just ran around the table like a couple of times, waving her arms around, and it was kind of a streaker but fully clothed. No. And then Ronnie O'Sullivan just gave her the cue and said, "Well, do you want to finish off for me?" And she went to pot the black. It was a fantastic bit of footage. I mean,
I feel like
I think she missed it. I don't think she made. She was rubbish, but I like that. I mean, that was just so British. Yeah. I think that's just classic, because nobody really did anything. It would have been great if she'd taken her top off and sort of wobbled around a bit. That would have been even better. But
Was that in the famous place in Sheffield? The Sheffield.
I think it might have been. Yeah, there's a Crucible.
Crucible. That's right. The Sheffield Crucible.
Have you ever been to a snooker game?
Only at the pub.
Only at the pub.
Oh no, it's Paul. Sorry, Paul.
We should go to a snooker. We should have a look, and you and I should go and watch a snooker game just for a laugh and see what it's like, and then we can come back and talk about it.
I used to love it. I used to absolutely love it when I was a kid. Snooker was my favourite thing to watch, because in fact, was a child, I was excited to see snooker.
Who was your favourite? Who was your favourite as a kid?
I don't know. I didn't really take much attention. It was just the fact that it meant that I could stay up for an extra half an hour.
Excellent.
Those happy memories.
Because they used to be, was it BBC Two? And it used to be on, like the finals would be finished on a Sunday and late. I know exactly that thing. You try and stay up a little bit later. Oh, I'm really into it, Mum. Let me watch it. And
then I remember, my dad used to take me to school and always stop off at the pub just before he took me in.
On the way to school?
On the way to school. I actually could drink more at that age than I can now. Genuinely, I can. A couple of pints and, I'm lost now. But in those days, a couple of pints down, it sold me. But I think it was more to do with the fact that when I was brought up, things were a little different. I don't want to sound like a 70-year-old man, because I'm not a 70-year-old man, and nor do I feel like a 70-year-old man. But I do remember we used to be, sort of pacify us. We always had a little bit of whiskey in our milk,
Nothing wrong with that. Although some would say differently now.
Some would say it wouldn't be appropriate such a thing.
I don't think that necessarily leads you on to an enthusiasm for alcohol if you have
Definitely
a little bit, because that's often a kind of, a sort of my wife's grandmother, who sadly passed away last year. She would always say, if a dog bites you and draws blood, then it gets the taste for blood, so it's then going to devour everybody that comes anywhere near it. And it's a little bit like that kind of analogy of, a little bit of whiskey in your milk. Not that we are endorsing that at all, but we're discussing it, which is what we're here to do.
I think it is a dangerous subject when I start talking, because it's quite personal. Of course, my dad, I remember, my dad used to drink. I mean, he would drink, but
mine was pretty good at it too.
But we never had a meal without alcohol, of course, breakfast was difficult, but there was never a meal without alcohol. And the funny thing is, but my whole life, I never saw my dad drunk once. And I wish my children could say the same about me. but it's quite amazing, really. But I'm not really I'm not a drinker at all. I mean, I always say I'm a non-drinker, and then all my friends
correct that you are actually drinking.
I do, because I like
is what it is.
No, but you don't.
What you do is you don't drink when you're singing or when you're working, which is incredibly professional, I must say. A bit annoying sometimes when we're on a 4-week tour and you can't have a drink till the end. And
thank you. I'm glad. Thank you for taking on my annoyance. Or is it annoying for you?
No, I do is I just feel it's a bit like, I think it's I wouldn't say selfish of you. I wouldn't go that far, but it's kind of like to put that on me that I have to drink twice as much just because you're not. I mean, I think it's a bit. No, you're selfish. What are you thinking, man? Come on.
Well, because the other thing is, I enjoy watching other people drink instead of me. I enjoy watching you drink a really nice pint of something.
Yeah.
But I love alcohol. I love it, and all my heroes.
Died
alcoholics.
of alcohol.
Yeah, that's right. And all dead. You're right, all of them. Yeah. And but that was it. I like the old Jimmy Reed thing where sort of he can't sit on his seat, but still he could perform. And this is an interesting thing, actually, performing with alcohol, because of course I go on stage, and I will not take a drop, and not even the night before, because I find it dehydrates my vocal cords, and it doesn't do them any good at all. So I will not drink at all. And normally when I'm going on tour, I'll have a half a week beforehand, try just to stop the urges of drinking, or a week if I'm good enough. And then I'll do the tour, and there'll be nothing until the end of the tour. And then at the end of the tour, on the last night, I always have a drink. And it always coincides with also being arrested. But, if not arrested, certainly.
I like the always, very confidently. It always ends up with a plea. And in fact, when we were in Europe at the end of the Wakeman Wilson tour from last year, the last show, I can't remember where it was now. Was it in Germany or Holland? Must have been Holland, I think. But anyway, we were... in fact, no, it wasn't. It was the festival, the Art Rock Festival we went out to do in May or April. So
I don't remember that at all.
Well, we went out. So this was effectively the end of the tour. So we'd done the 24 dates or so around the UK and Europe, and then there was a festival that came in a few weeks later. So we came out to do that. And we went out and you bought me a lovely meal, which was fantastic. And then we had a few drinks. We had a few bottles of wine.
I remember. And there was that pub. There was a little Irish pub.
Yeah.
And there was some music going on. Yep. And I thought, they're going to love this.
Yeah.
What a treat for them. So I went up on stage.
What a treat. What a treat.
So I went and spoke to the band.
Yeah.
And I said, hello, you're so pleased that I'm here. This is a treat.
You really did as well.
A treat for all in this packed pub, So a little Irish pub, a little taste of England's Irish, kind of hospitality.
Yeah.
I went on stage.
Yeah,
went on stage and I performed for them, And it was amazing. I tell you what, the most amazing thing was that I couldn't get it out.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember how to sing.
I stood there at the side of the little stage there and watched you, and I lived that pain through you, because not only could you not sing the words,
do you know,
or talk,
yeah,
you couldn't play the guitar either. But I could see you trying to do it. It was like watching a man who's lost his arm try and pick something up with no arm. That's what it was like watching you in there. And then all the band members who were stood around going, what is going on?
And then I remember, then it was at that point, this is what I remember. I remember just giggling a little.
But the best bit.
And then
go on.
Then giggling a lot. And then after
during the song, it was halfway
I was on stage, the microphone was there, and myself and the microphone and the guitar started laughing. And we were just having the laughing, because it's good to laugh on stage, because it feeds to the audience. But you know what? At that point, I honestly cannot remember anything after the giggles.
Can I tell you what happened then? Because I'm not sure if we've spoken about it.
Did they all clap and cheer?
In your head, yes, they did. You started.
That reminds me. That reminds me of when I was my son Sasha, when he was like a little child of I don't know. We took him swimming to the swimming parks, and he said, "Dad," because my children always challenge me on everything. "Dad, you know, it's like the diving board," and he said, "Could Dad dive from the top diving board?" Which I did, and I did it, and I must have said, I came down. I obviously clipped something. It wasn't a great dive from the very top board. You know what I mean? And I remember hitting the water quite badly. I came up and I said, you know, so he said, "Dad, that was amazing." He said, everybody clapped. I looked around. I couldn't see anybody clapping or anything, but obviously I had. They didn't want to, they were all very impressed by my dive. And for years, I thought I'd impressed my son with my fantastic dive. And then years later, he said, he recalled the situation and said, "Yeah, no, Dad, it was a terrible dive. Nobody clapped. Nobody clapped.
They were just laughing at you.
They despairing.
Despair at
But I did that for my son, because I know I can't.
Well, that's good. Well, you when you left the stage in this
Everybody
particular
clapped.
pub, again in your head maybe they clapped and cheered. You giggled like a schoolgirl, and you looked at the guitar and said, "I can't play." and you put the guitar down, and you jumped off the stage, and you put your hand in the air and said, "Thanks very much," and you walked straight past me and out the door. And I just turned around and followed you out. And then as we walked back to the hotel, there was a police car parked, and you ran up to the police car and started shouting at the policeman through his window. And I was just thinking, it happens every time you have a drink. It's like you're a magnet for trouble.
I cannot remember anything from after giggling on stage. That was the last I remember. I definitely don't remember a police car.
One of the funniest things I think about, and my wife Terry and I, this happens when we go out and we have too much to drink. The funniest bits are in the morning when you sit down and you're having a chat over coffee and you go, "Oh my God, no. Did you do? Oh, you did. Oh no!" That is the kind of, as long as it's not too bad.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's ruining somebody's night or upsetting somebody. That's
kissing a babysitter, something like that. That's always the.
Did I kiss your babysitter?
I kissed a babysitter.
Oh,
once.
Thank God for that.
Actually, no, I didn't kiss her. I hugged her, and apparently that's just as bad. Anyway,
that's fair enough. There's no harm.
No, I was a bit confused, to be honest. Well, not
your niece. That's fine.
No, it wasn't. I just got. We came in and I paid her, and then she was stood by the door, and I'm, as you know, I'm quite a huggy person. I hug everybody, and she was stood there, and I said, "Have I paid you?" And she went, "Oh yeah, you paid me." I think she was waiting for me to open the door for her. So I just gave her a hug and then opened the door and off she went. And I said to Terry the next day, "I think I hugged the babysitter." And she was with a friend of ours, Ian, and they both looked at me and went, "You cannot hug the babysitter." And I went, "Well, it wasn't." Well, and now I started feeling really bad about it, And you're looking at me as if to say it's all right. We're going to edit this out, but I don't see why we should.
Well, it's a difficult thing because I mean, I hug everyone. I kiss everyone, and
that's what gets you into trouble. That's different.
But the thing is, I mean, when my memories of being a young child, for example, at school, was I had that huggy teacher. You sit on the knee, and you hug in class, and it was all very kind of touchy.
Put clothes back on and back to class. And
I had a very happy childhood.
Yeah,
I had a very happy childhood. It is a strange because I actually, I was quite happy, but I think a lot of it, and I think that I was quite neglected, not as in I didn't receive, my parents were great and all, but they did do funny things when we were kids. You were sent off into the arms of strange people.
Do you think that was that like a time difference thing? It's like now we're just far more conscious about these things, and
I think they're very trusting. I think I think we're more aware now, and I think we all were very trusting. In some ways, actually, that's not always a bad thing to be trusting, but I think in some ways it wasn't good. I think you have to have a little bit of faith in people. But
we've really gone round the houses on this one.
It's good. It's good because it's I think.
Do you reckon from this we might get our own TV show? Is Channel 4 still going?
On this battlefield,